So as part of today, we'll see another example in ALV. Right, this is the requirement. ALV cell editing. So the requirement is we should display the ALV report. We have to make one of the column as what editable. Okay, I should be able to change the values in the runtime. After modifying one or more cells, when I press enter, that changes should update in the database. That changes should update in the database, and successful update we can give the message successful or what not modified. Some anyhow we know how to do the what messages. Okay, so this will not focus. We'll focus only on what how to make the column as what editable so that user can make the changes in the runtime, and that changes should reflect in the database on pressing what enter. Okay, so let's see how to do it. So I can take any table here, standard table or what custom table. Let me check whether I am having any table related to employee. For our convenience, I'll take a custom table. Right, so I'm having one table Z830 underscore EMP. Let me take a small table. Okay, it has got too many fields. Okay, I can take this also. C830 EMP. Do we have any data in this, or let me go for this table only, Z830 underscore EMP. If I go to contents, yeah, this table has got some 5 entries. This is a table Z830 underscore EMP is a table. This table data I have to display it in what ALV format and make the employee name column as what editable so that user can make the changes in the what runtime, and on pressing enter it should be updated to what database. So ALV cell editing in what Webdynpro. So as usual, let us first display the data. So what is the table I want to consider here? Z830 underscore EMP, it has got some fields. So let me create the node based on this table structure. So I'll go to Object Navigator. Right, so 23 is already done. I'll go for 24. ALV cell editing. I'll give the window name as underscore window. I'll give the view name as V1. I'll flag it as a local object. So in ALV we know that the node which displays the data has to be at that component level. So let me create the node at what component level referring to that particular employee table. So in this employee name column is what editable. So I'll go to component controller first. Let me create the node here. Create what node. I'll give the node name as emp underscore node. I'll give the structure name as Z830 underscore EMP. Since I'm dealing with multiple records, I'll take 0 to n. Let me take all the fields. Continue. Done. Okay, so save it. Then as part of the view, let me do the internal context mapping first. EMP node is mapped to this. Done. Then as part of this view container, insert element. I'll take one view container. Done. Then what you have to do, we have to embed that external window. For that I have to include the standard component at what level? Component level. What is that? SALV table. I'll give the name as something what? Something ALV. When you save it, component usage gets created. Then as part of the window, your view will be plugged. As part of your view, you'll have view container. As part of view container, we need to embed the external window called as table, which is coming from the included standard component SLV underscore W underscore table. So done. Continue. We have embedded the external window called as table. Then as part of component usages, you have to do the external context mapping. So I'll go to controller usage, component. This is my final node. Let me map it to a data node. Done. It is mapped to what? Data node. Done. Save it. Then let me create the application once. Create Webdynpro application. Let me activate the component. I click on the component and say activate. Yeah, it's activated. When I execute this, we'll get the ALV report. Client, employee number, name, designation, date, and what time. Now I have to default the data. In that I have to make employee name as what? Editable. Okay. So as usual in the WD do init method, let me write the logic. So as of now I'm using only this method. The other method, this modify, I'll explain in the upcoming topic. So WD do init. So get the employee data. So I require an internal table data t underscore emp w underscore this of what? Elements underscore emp underscore node. I want all the fields, so I'll say select star from z what 830 underscore emp into table t underscore emp. I want all the records. Then what? If size of ours is equal to 0, what you have to do? You have to bind it to the node. For that you have to get the reference of the node. Get the reference of the node, what? Emp underscore node. I need to check whether I require this reference in some other place. I require in WD unit plus. When I press enter, I have to identify the modified internal table. Na? So for that again, you have to get the reference of the node in that particular method. So I'll try to declare that method as what? View. I'll try to declare that reference as what? View attribute. So what is that? Context underscore emp underscore node if underscore w underscore context underscore node. So I declared that as what? A view attribute, so that I can use it in all the methods of this particular view. Now if you go back to WD method, get the reference. I'll use the pattern. It is under root, so WD underscore context. If WD context node get child node, get child node. Then here name of the node is what? WD underscore this of what? WD context underscore emp underscore node. I'll receive the reference inside what? WD underscore this of what? Context underscore. Here it is not available locally. It is available as a view attribute. Done. Okay. Then what I'll say here, I'll say if WD underscore what? This of what? context underscore emp underscore node is what? Bound. What I have to do? Bind the employee data. Bind the employee data and f. Bind the employee data. So here I'll say wd underscore this of what? Context underscore emp underscore node of what? Bind underscore table. What is the internal table? T underscore emp. So save it, check it, activate this. Let me use a pretty printer for alignment. Done. I'll reactivate this. Let me execute the application. Right, so I got the what? Data. Understood? I got the data, employee data I got. What is the requirement here? Employee name should be what? Editable. So as of now you can see none of them is what? Editable. So I have to make employee name column is what? Editable. Okay. So let's see how to do it. So same thing. So what is that? You have to get the reference of this column. Na? So for that, before that, you have to get the reference to the table. Before that, get the reference of interface controller. Before that, instantiate the used component. Same story you have to do. So what I'll do here, as part of my view, I'll go to the view properties. I have to include that what? I have to include that particular used content, used controller. So I'll just go to that. Okay, I'll include this. I'll include the other one also done. Let me save it, check it. So two methods gets what? Generated. So if you go to the local view interface, you'll have the two methods, WDCPUs and WDCPI FC. Okay, so as usual, same technique. What I have to do here? Hmm? What I have to do? What? Instantiate what? Used component. Instantiate the used component. Okay, we can instantiate the used component. So I'll say data, same thing, o underscore component usage type ref2. It returns a reference of which interface? If underscore w underscore component underscore usage. O underscore component usage is equal to wd underscore this of what is the method? Wd underscore cpus underscore alv. Okay, if o underscore component underscore usg is what? Bound. Okay, check whether what? Component is what? Active. So what I'll do, if what? O underscore component usage of what? As active component is what? Initial. If it is initial, what I have to do? I have to create the component. If it is not active, create the component. So o underscore cmp underscore usg of what? What is the method? Create underscore component. Done. The component would be created. Incorrect nesting. Why was? But I have not closed this. Done. Let me use a pretty printer. Done. Okay, so if it is bound, do so and so. Next year only. Yeah, here only. What you have to do? Instantiate what? Interface control, not instantiate. Get the reference of what? Interface control. Same steps, get the reference of interface controller. So data o underscore interface controller type ref2 what iwci underscore salv underscore w underscore table o underscore interface underscore controller is equal to w underscore this of what w underscore cpi fc underscore what alv. Done. Okay, then here only if o underscore interface underscore controller is what bound, if it is bound, what you have to do, get the reference of what alv table. Okay, so I'll say data o underscore config type ref to cl underscore w underscore salv underscore config underscore what table. So I'm declaring the reference of that particular class. Then also o underscore config is equal to what is the object of the interface controller o underscore interface controller of what is the method get underscore what model, get underscore model. Save it, check it. Hmm? What is the class? Config table. Reverse I wrote. cl underscore what salv underscore wd underscore so and so. Then let me use a pretty printer. Done. Okay, so I got the reference of what alv table. Then I'll say if what o underscore what o underscore config is what bound. If it is bound, what I have to do? Yes, get the what reference of which column? Employee name, because I want to make employee name is what editable. So here I'll say data o underscore call type ref to cl underscore salv underscore wd underscore what column. Okay, so I'll just get the reference. I'll use the pattern. I can directly call it, but I should give the interface name also. So o underscore what config. What is the class cl slwd config table? I have to use a method called as get column, which is not a direct method. It is a part of a implemented interface. That's the reason I'm using the pattern get underscore what column. This one get underscore column. Okay, so here it takes ID of the column. What is the ID of the column? Employee name. Reference is what o underscore what call. Done. Let me use a pretty printer. Done. Okay, so now what I'll do, if what o underscore call is what o underscore call is bound. Okay, so yesterday or the last two classes we have seen how to create button, how to create link to action. Okay, so I have to create that as what editable na? So it should be input field, it should become what input field. So if you go to the class cl underscore wd underscore what ui underscore what star. Okay, we have button link to action, all those things. Here only somewhere you'll have what cl underscore slw input field in the cells of what alv output. Okay, this is the class I have to instantiate. Can I instantiate? Is it a public class? Yes, it's a public class. I can instantiate this. So here I'll say what create what input field object. So I'll say data o underscore what input type ref to so and so class cl underscore salv underscore wd underscore ui underscore what input field. Okay, Before creating the object, let me check whether it has got any constructor with mandatory parameters. So I'll check for what? Constructor. If you see the parameters, yes, it has got one mandatory parameter which is expecting what? Field name. So directly I can give the field name here. So I'll say, I'll go to pattern, ABAP objects pattern, create object what? O underscore input. What is the class? CLSLW input. Yeah, value underscore field name equal to, directly I'll give what? Ename. Yesterday there is no constructor. Separately we are calling the method set text underscore field name. Here directly while creating the input object itself we gave that employee name. Then what you have to do? Next step is what? Set the cell editor to what? Input field. Set the cell editor to input field. So again if you go back to that class, oh not this class, column reference, O underscore call, CL underscore what, SLV underscore WD underscore what, column. There's a method what, set underscore cell underscore what, editor. In the column reference class we have that set underscore cell underscore editor. Done. Yeah, value is equal to, what is the input field? O underscore what, input. Done. Then what you have to do is set the, it should be made editable now. Set the read only property to what? Set the read only property to what? False. So what I have to do, in the config table class, O underscore what, config, CLSLE config table, there is a method called as set read only. Somewhere you'll have the method set read only. Not there. Huh? Set read only. Okay, so set read only. By default it is true, I think. By default it is not editable, na? So I'll say it as what? False. Save it, check the syntax, activate this. Let me use a pretty printer. Done. So here, what is the process? Everything is same, just I am getting the reference of that column. Then we are preparing what? Input field. We are setting the cell editor to input field, and you have to make the read only property to what? False. So let me execute this. Done. You can see here all the columns are what? Not editable, but here you can see I am able to what? Edit it. Okay, done. Now what I have to do? Okay, the user will edit what? One or more cell. When he presses enter, okay, it depends on the requirement how you want to write. Okay, I can take a button also. If I click on the button, I have to update, or press what? Enter. So I'll go for what? Enter. So that if I take a button here, what is the event triggered? On action. I don't want that, so I want to press enter here. So what you have to do is you have to handle the event. So in the same view, go to what? Methods tab. Here I'll say what? And underscore on cell action. Some name I'll give. And underscore what? On cell action. What is the method type here? Event handler. Okay, so description. Here you can see which event is triggered, that is important. So here when I browse this, we have seen already on function and what? On click. Yeah, there is a event here. What is this? On cell action. This is the event triggered whenever we press enter key in the Webdynpro ALV column. On cell action. Done. Let me save it. check it, activate this. Okay, so first of all I have to check whether this event is getting what triggered or not. So let me implement this. Check it, activate this. Done. Let me activate the whole program once. Yeah, this is important. I'll put the breakpoint here. Understood? So what is the event I am trying to handle? On underscore cell underscore what? Action. Okay? On cell action. On underscore cell underscore action. So I want to check whether the event is triggered or not. So just observe here. Test. Yeah, Pawan is there. I'll modify this to Praveen. I'll modify this to Praveen. Here Ramesh is there. I'll modify it to Raju. Two cells I modify. I'll press enter. I pressed enter. It should go and stop at what? Event handler method, but it is not stopping. Okay, so just like in our ABAP also, in object oriented, there are some events which are not triggered by what? Default. Okay, so those events has to be registered what explicitly in our ABAP also. If you go to ALV reporting grid class, CLGY ALV grid class, there is an event called as data underscore changed. That event is not triggered by default. We have to register that event explicitly by calling a method called as register underscore edit underscore event. Similarly, we have an event on F4. That event is also not triggered by default. It should be registered explicitly by calling the method register underscore F4 underscore for underscore what fields. Similarly, we have top of page event that is not triggered by default. It should be registered explicitly by calling the method list underscore processing underscore event. Similarly, in Webdynpro also, on cell action event is not triggered by default. It should be registered what explicitly. So how do we register explicitly means if you go to the table class, what is that? CL underscore SLV underscore WD underscore what? Config table. In this class there is a method. There is a method. Yeah, you can see there is a method here. Set underscore cell action event what? Enable. This is a method you have to call. Instance what? Public method. Am I clear? I repeat once again. Earlier in ALU, you have seen some events like what? On underscore function. That is triggered by default. What else you have seen yesterday? On underscore click. It is also triggered by default. But there are some events which are not triggered by default. Those events should be registered what? Explicitly by calling the appropriate method. So where do we check that appropriate method? In the table class itself. In the entire ALB table class, you'll have one method called as what? Set cell action event enabled. Okay, switches system on what? On selection event. So it's an instance whether I can call it by using the object of this class. What is the object of this class in our program? O underscore config. Okay, what is the parameter for this? I'll put the cursor, go to what? Parameters. Yeah, it takes what? Boolean. Okay, so let me call that method. So in the wd do init method only, in the wd do init method only, I'll try to register that event what explicitly. So here I'll say what register what on cell action event. Understood? You have to do it in init method only so that when the user performs action, the event will be what triggered. Register on cell action event explicitly. Okay, so I'll go to pattern. In the config table class, there is a method called as what? Set cell action event enabled. That's it. Cell action event enabled. Now I'll use the pattern once. Done. Let me activate this. Okay, already I gave the breakpoint in that event handler method. This is a breakpoint. Okay, now let me execute. Right click on the application, say test. Yeah, Pavan is there. I'll modify this to something Kranti. Ramesh is there. I'll modify this to something Mahesh. I'll press enter. Oh, what happened? I'm refreshing. I pressed enter. Why it is not triggered? Let me go back to that. On selection. On selection done. Event handler only done. In the init method, yeah, it takes boolean. So true means we are registering this event. But why it is not triggered? But okay, why only one cell? It is going there. Let me just close this. It should allow for multiple cells also, no? Let me check. I'll modify this. I'm not pressing enter. I'll press enter here. Ah, so it is not refreshed properly. Now it is stopping now. It is stopping there. So now what I can do, I can write the appropriate logic to update your table. That would be very easy. Here also it has got what? Some what? Parameters. So if you see this interface, already we have seen this. There are some attributes. What is this? Value. Am I clear? I can refer to that. I can update it. But I want it for multiple cells now. So I'll not go for this parameter. Directly I'll write a simple ABAP logic. So what I'll do here is, what I have to do, I have to get the what? Already the node reference is available now. Where it is available? As a view attribute. It is already available. So I'll say if what? If wd underscore this of what? context underscore emp underscore node is what? Bound. What I'll do, get the updated data. Okay, so user might modify one row or what? Multiple rows. So one row means you have to call method get static attributes na? Get static attributes. Okay, now since it is multiple rows, okay, I require internal table here. Data t underscore what? Emp type what? W underscore this of what? Elements underscore emp underscore node. See the technique here. If you go to this interface, if wd context node, there is a method called as get static attributes table. For single row we use what? Get static attributes. Get static attributes table, which will return me the old table whatever is there on the front end. Okay, so this is not required for me. I'll directly import it. I want all the rows. Table is equal to what? T underscore em. Understood? So what this get static at we will do? Whatever is the current data is there on the front end view, that data will be written what? As it is. As it is. Okay. Next, what I'll do here? Here I'll say if what? T underscore emp is what? Not initial. What I have to do? Update the what? Database table. So I'll say modify table. What is the database table? Z 830 underscore what? 830 underscore emp from acha, I think modify only. Modify so and so from table. What is the internal table? T underscore emp. Okay. If the updation is successful, if size of rc is equal to 0, you write the logic for what? Flashing what? Flash what? Success message, else flash what? Failure message. Okay, do I require one more thing here? Yes. End it, save it, check it, no errors, done. So simple logic. Whatever the current data is there in the view, if you want to use it as it is, what is the method you have to use? Get static attributes table. So why I am going for that method? Because we are allowing the user to modify what? Multiple cells. Okay, so done. Okay, let me activate this. Okay, let me check the table once. The 830 underscore emp, this is my data as of now. Okay, so I'll modify this 2 and what 23. What are the names? Pavan and what? Praveen as of now. Okay, so now I'll activate the whole component. I click on this set test 2 and 23 na? So 2 Pavan is there. I'll make this as Kranti. Okay, 23 Praveen is there. I'll make this as something Kamal, something. Okay, 2 and what 20. I'll press enter. Yeah, I didn't give the breakpoint. Might be it is what? Updated to what? Database table. Actually, I have to give the message here. Okay, so let me just check it. I'll refresh. What happened? Why? Better we debug. Pawan is there. I'll make this as something name 1. 23 is there. I'll make this as something what? Name what? 2. I'll press enter. Yeah, it is stopping there. Yeah, as of now, if you see T underscore EMP, it is what? 0. When I say F6, oh, oh, I got only what? Array, 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 array. I used a wrong object for calling that method. Now I should use the reference of that node. Now I used what? Root one. So I have to use this one. Now that's the reason. That is the problem. Okay, so let me just close this. I'm clear. Get static attribute is returning that one. So I have to use because we require the content of our node. Okay, so what is this? WD underscore this of what? Context underscore EMP underscore what? Node of what? Get static attribute. Yeah, I think now it should work fine. Let me check. Is it clear? Let me activate this. Let me refresh. Yeah, 2 power is there. I'll make this as I'll make this as name 20 something. 23 is there. I'll modify this to name 23 something. Okay, I'll press enter. It might have what? Updated. You can check the table. I'll refresh. Good. Name 20 and what? Name 23. So the problem was the wrong reference I used. Okay, so this updation is very simple task, but the main thing is what is the event triggered when you press enter key in the ALV cell? What is the event triggered? On cell action. By default, that event is not triggered. It should be registered explicitly by calling what? An appropriate method. Where to check that appropriate method? In the config table class. What is the appropriate method you have called? Set cell action event what? Enable. There are some events which doesn't require any registration. Okay, so how do we know? Means by looking at the event we cannot say. Just provide some dummy implementation in that event handler method, give some breakpoint and check whether it is getting triggered or not. If it is not getting triggered, come to config table class, identify the appropriate method which you have to call to enable that particular event, to register that particular event. Clear? So this is the, and in this only you can go for what? Message. Already we know how to flash what? Messages. Okay, so in this ALV, whatever we discuss is sufficient. I'm having some more examples. I'll mail you that. Once I collect that, I'll mail you that example at what ALV reporting. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll discuss what dynamic program, how to create the context, how to create the elements, what dynamically. Make clear? So if you see this ALV reporting, 1 second. What is this? Integrating AL, already you know. Editing ALV cell values dynamically. Just now we have seen. Reporting success is a generalized thing. ALV columns has what? Hyperlinks. We have seen that yesterday. ALV columns has button, ALV row coloring, column coloring. What is this? Top of list, end of list. We have seen that. Adding what? Custom buttons. Yes, we have added one button there, and we understood the process of what? Handling the events. Any requirement, the process would be what? Same. Okay, so tomorrow we'll go back and discuss what? Dynamic programming. Done? Any questions? Clear? Chala then. So I'll wind off for today. We'll continue tomorrow with what? Dynamic programming.